Hey guys, it's Makayla, and I am the creator and host of Hey Sis Global Podcast. And today we're going to talk about I'm praying, but nothing is happening. And so I just want to really hone in on some things and question your thinking when it comes to when you're praying to God and you feel like nothing is happening and nothing is taking place. And so I would ask you, does the lack of movement mean God isn't moving? If I'm not overly emotional in prayer, does that mean God isn't listening? I believe we get to this crossroads where God is growing us up. He's maturing us. And the lack of emotions doesn't mean God isn't there. The lack of emotions show a side of spiritual maturity to continue to push even when I'm depleted. I haven't seen movement, but I'm grounded and mature in my faith to know He's faithful. And if He did it before, He'll do it again. The presence of emotions is the enemy's playground, honestly. He knows if I can get a reaction, then I can evoke emotion. I can derail her today, meaning you were so busy crying today, you didn't even pray. You were so busy crying today that you didn't even stop to say, you know what, let me study the word today, or let me listen to something that will edify my spirit. And that is all the enemy does. His job is to stop your prayers, stop your yearning for God, stop your walk with God. And a lot of times we fail to realize the power God has placed on the inside of us. Like He's literally given us the power to tread over serpents. Spiritual maturity says, excuse me, I'm sorry, y'all. And spiritual maturity says, though I didn't shout this time, I didn't cry this time, I know my words have power. I know the spiritual authority God has given me. It's supposed to. And honestly, I'm sorry, I had to catch something to drink. My throat's so dry. But honestly, it's supposed to look bad before it ever looks good. A lot of times it's a mirage. The enemy magnifies every little thing because he knows when God shows up, you see exactly how really none of it was real. None of it did anything. Like you felt it, but it didn't do anything to your spirit. You felt it, but you knew that. Let me back up. You felt it, but it couldn't take you out. You felt it, but it couldn't stop the momentum. All the enemy can't stop anything. He can only delay. And we know that from the book of Daniel, when Daniel was praying and God sent the answer, but the answer was held up, and Michael, the archangel, had to fight for 21 days, the prince of Persia. We know that he can only delay things for a limited amount of time, but God uses that for His glory. He uses that to be able to mature us and show us, like, hey, let me see what she's gonna do while waiting for me. Let me see what she's gonna do. Wow, the answer is held up. Let me see if she gonna keep praying. Let me see if she's gonna keep fasting. Let me see if she's going to seek my face, or is she going to fold under the pressure? And honestly, God knows this, and it feels real. It feels painful, but it produces a character. Oh Lord, but I'm sorry, y'all. But it produces a character to trust God on a deeper level. And I want to give this testimony because when I look back over this situation, it happened so quickly, it happened so fast. But so I had got my tax return, and with my tax return, it was a pretty substantial amount of money. And I thought I did everything right. But when it was time, I had been waiting on the deposit because it's direct deposit. I had been waiting on it, and nothing happened. And I kept going to the IRS website and nothing happened. And mind you, in this time, I'm in dire need of funds. And so I began to question because the IRS website was saying that my tax return had been deposited in my bank account. But when I looked at my bank account, it was at zero. So I did some digging and come to find out that when my tax preparer did it, it was one number off of the account number. So the funds were deposited, but it was deposited into an account that was not mine. And so I'm calling the IRS, I'm calling them, I'm emailing them, I'm trying to figure something out. And that was such a blow to my faith that I did not see coming. Like I almost come in tears when I think about it now. It was a blow to my faith I did not see coming. I remember when the lady was saying like there's nothing we can do over the phone. I felt like this burning sensation in my chest. Like, why does these things keep happening to me? But God wanted to see what I was going to do. He wanted to see how I was going to react. And most importantly, when I found out about this money, I had made plans for the money. Now it was not bad plans. The plans I made for the money was I was going to use a portion of it to invest in something for my business, to get my business, off the ground to the next level. And I had already made up in my mind when this money was deposited, I was going to use that money to purchase that. God knew it's not time for her to purchase that. I'm going to allow this delay to happen. And so I'm going to put a pin in it right there, because the same program that I wanted to purchase for my business, I did not get to purchase it because I didn't have the money. But 6 months later in November, that same program, instead of being $1,800, was only going to cost me $500. See, God, his ways are higher than our ways. His thoughts are higher than our thoughts. He knows more than we do. He knows what's up ahead because he lives outside of time. And so I didn't get this money. I was devastated. I was hurt. I remember going in my living room and just throwing things because I was so hurt. I was so devastated. Because I was like, God, you see me struggling. And this was the first time I thought, okay, here's a break. Here's finally a break for you. And it did not happen. And I was losing it. And God allowed this situation because he wants to see what is she going to do? How is she going to react when things do not happen the way that she wants them to happen? And I'm not going to lie, y'all, I lost it. But the thing about it is that in that moment, I was in such a vulnerable place with God, to the point where there was absolutely nothing I can do in my own strength. I didn't have anything. I didn't have anyone to turn to. There was nothing I could do in my own strength. And so in that process, I had to literally sit in it. I had to sit in the emotions. I had to sit in the disappointment. I had to sit in the fact like I'm alone. I don't have anyone that can help me, anyone I can turn to. I have no one close to me that I could ask, maybe to borrow $100 or something. Nothing. And so in that moment, all I had was me, my thoughts, and God. And the enemy was using my mind as a playground. And I wanted to give up so bad on my walk at that moment, but I didn't. I took a little time to myself. I cried many days because I did not know how I was going to come out of this rut, how I was going to come out of this place of having nothing. I did not know how long it was going to be. But as much as I wanted to lay in my bed and be depressed, I still got up. I still prayed. I still read my word, even when I did not want to, even when I did not believe the words that I was reading, even though I did not believe the words that I was praying, I still got up and did it. I still said, I'm going to push through this resistance. I'm going to push through this disappointment. I'm going to push through till I get to the other side, because I don't have nothing left. Like there was no, excuse me, there was no plan B. I didn't have a plan B. I didn't have any options. I couldn't do anything on my own strength. So I knew it's either this or nothing. And I refused to just lay there and die in my disappointment, lay there and die in my sorrow. I refused to do it. So I had to muster up the strength, and it was nothing but God giving me this strength. I had to muster it up so I can say, okay, let me just keep going. It can't get any worse. Let me just keep going. And I will never forget, about a month later, no, probably 2 months later, because mind you, God had been dropping into my spirit, like, call the bank, and I wasn't doing it. I don't know why. I was just so, the enemy was using my mind as a playground, and I was so caught up in the thoughts in my head, I did not do something as simple as calling my bank. And it was one day, I felt the urge so strong, call the bank, that I didn't call the bank. I drove to the bank because I didn't live probably 10 minutes or so from my bank. And I showed the lady everything And you know how you go to a bank, you have the tellers with the money, but you also have the people that's in the back in those rooms. I was able to go in the back in one of those rooms and show this woman everything. And she was the nicest person ever. And I told her everything, and she said, well, I'm going to see what I can do, and I'll get back to you. Okay. God, I did what you told me to do, but I did not see immediate results. I went and I kept living. I went and I didn't stop doing what I was doing. 4 days later, on a Thursday, she calls me and she says, hey, I checked everything out. I did everything that needed to be done when it comes to the higher ups, and you will have all of your money tomorrow morning. I'm doing a transaction because this has your name on it, your account, and it was just a mistake with a one number difference. And so within a matter of 24 hours, the next morning, I had all of my money. And I'm talking about tens of thousands of dollars. I had all of my money finally. And it was like, I looked back and I said, God, I pushed through the resistance even when it didn't feel good. I pushed through and prayed even when nothing was changing. I pushed through it and I kept going, and you came through for me. In that moment, getting that money, it was such a like an overwhelming feeling of relief, like I can breathe, that this is what spiritual warfare looks like in the natural. The enemy is giving you resistance, throwing little darts here, but in the end, God has the final say so. And that's the part that I couldn't get over, is that I was in a rut for a couple of weeks and I didn't know what I was going to do. And yet God knew the appointed time, everything, the mirage would disappear. And we'll get into that level. Oh my gosh. He took the stress out of it in a matter of 24 hours. He made a way. I look back on the pain that I felt. Like my pain was real. My disappointment with God was real. But God knew that there was an appointed time, a very moment where everything would change. And now I don't find myself stressing or caring about a lot of things. I'm able to just say, okay, it didn't go the way that I thought it was going to go. It didn't end the way I thought it was going to end. But I know that God is not going to leave me nor forsake me. I know that I can have a peace that surpasses all understanding, because the trials and tribulations produce a certain dependence on God. You know, it ignites your faith to where if someone comes and asks you for prayer, you're able to touch and agree with this person on a different level because you saw God do the impossible. And honestly, y'all, faith ain't pretty. That's why when I listen to a video of someone giving a testimony and giving glory and glory be to God, but I live with a feeling of this, of when I listen to a video or something that I might come across on YouTube and that person's telling their story, they're telling how, oh, I fasted for 3 days and this happened. I fasted for 7 days and this happened. And I used to get so discouraged because that's not my story. My faith don't look like that. My walk with God didn't look like that. I fasted and fasted many times and nothing happened. Now it produced spiritual maturity in me and it produced a discipline in me, but I wasn't having these miraculous breakthroughs like everyone else, and I just did not understand. And you have to know that the pain attached to your story, the suffering attached to your story, spiritual discipline is attached to your story. And we don't hear stories like that because people quit and they throw in the towel in the middle of their process. Now, why do you think it took Abraham and Sarah years before seeing the promise? Because it was a process. And even when the promise was birthed, Abraham was still tried by fire. What did God tell him? Go sacrifice your son. And let's be real honest. This walk with God is one of endurance, because you're going to have to endure a lot of things. You're going to have to endure a lot of persecution. You're going to have to endure a lot of spiritual warfare. And that's the thing. God never promised a life without going through things, but he promised he would be there. He promised to give you a peace that surpasses understanding. And I'm going to put a pin right there and in this episode. And I will see you guys on the next episode. And please sign up for the newsletter so you can get notifications whenever I drop a new Hey Sis Global podcast episode. And I will see you guys later.